Come on, hit it! Hit it! Sorry, I'm Paddy from creativemedia.org.uk and I'm trying out this amazing Sony RX10 camera in slow motion. And as you can see, I'm so excited about using it that I haven't actually bothered getting dressed yet. I'm in my dressing gown and it's about 7 in the morning. I've been up since 5 messing around with this camera. So, slow motion. This camera will shoot at up to 1,000 frames per second, depending on which version you've got. If you're using the American version, I think it's 960 frames per second. This is all based on the frequency of your main supply. A bit more on this later. This camera, for me, will shoot at 25 and 50 frames per second, quite normal, but also 250 frames per second, 500 and 1,000 frames per second, which is quite amazing. But can I actually make it look any good? I tried the other day with some LED lights and it just flickered horribly and it wasn't really usable. There may be some things I could do with some flicker removal later on, but I think these shots aren't usable at all. So I've tried again at home, and these first shots were shot with halogen lights. This is one of the lights I used. It's a 250 watt halogen work light, very cheap from a DIY shop. Very hot, uses a lot of electricity, very bright, a nice kind of yellowy light, but loads of flicker because these are mains powered, and in the UK we have alternating current, as most countries do, I think, maybe all countries, which means they turn on and turn off very quickly, 50 times a second. I think in the United States it might be 59.97 times a second, or maybe 60 times a second, which is why the frame rates of these cameras vary depending on what kind of power supply you have. People who know their electronics will understand that more than me. The people that do the really sort of pro-end, high frame rate, slow motion stuff use very powerful tungsten lights, and apparently those, when they light up and they sort of turn on and off 50 times a second, they're so bright and so hot that when they turn off, they stay bright for that 50th of a second, so you get a steady light. But for me, these lights, no good. Not for this anyway. So instead, I have used some LED lights, and I've used a lot of lights because when you're shooting at such a high frame rate, you need lots of very high shutter speed pictures per second, so you need a lot of light for that. I've got not one light, not two lights, but 3 lights going on here. I've got this LED light, and the reason I'm using LED is because they use direct current rather than alternating current, so they just stay on. If you've got a dimming light, which this one is actually, where's the dimming on it? There we go. When I dim this down, it does flicker on and off, and the brighter it gets, the longer the on stages and the shorter the off stages. But I've put it on full and hoped that would stay on permanently. And this light cost me around £25, and I've rigged up a thing so it'll fit on a microphone stand, again quite cheap. I like to do things on a budget because I'm not making a lot of money from, not making any money from this. Here I've got an angle poise light, wow, which got very bright LEDs in as well. Again, nice and cheap and useful for all kinds of things. Good for video lighting, good for just lighting up when you're doing a crossword or something. And inside the drum, because what I'm doing is I'm shooting slow motion, hitting a drum with glitter flying off it, which is a shot a friend of mine wants to try. He wants to do it with water, but I'm not going to risk water and all this electricity right now. So inside this drum, I have got one of these LED corn lights. I guess because they look like a corn on the cob, kind of like a robot corn on the cob. Now, I recommend these very highly if you shoot any video. These are superb. This costs around £20 and it's incredibly bright, and it has a normal light fitting on it. So if you're going to any domestic kind of shooting environment, take along a few of these, put them in the light fittings, and instantly you've got a lovely bright light, which looks kind of natural to how the room is. Looks natural to how the room is lit. And also, as you can see, I'm holding the bulb in my hands. It's not burning hot like a normal tungsten light would be. So these are superb things. Get them, and you can see they're very bright. I'll be seeing purple spots for ages now. See that down there? Oop, let's move that around to get some more sensible lighting. How's that? Yeah, not bad. So, is the RX10 any good as a slow motion camera? Well, if you have a good lighting rig like this, which I'd say all in all, this lighting setup here and the stands and everything cost less than £100, which is pretty good. The RX10 will only shoot 2 seconds of slow motion at the 250, 500 and 1000 frames per second. So that's limited, but it's great for spicing up like a pop video and making a bit of interest. Or, you know, if you've got a bit of faulty machinery that you want to see very slow motion to see where it's going wrong and why it's going wrong. And for the price, you're not really going to get anything else that will shoot that quickly. I've yet to really look in depth at the MP4 files that I've got out of the camera, but they're looking quite good. I'm going to do a bit of post-processing on them as well to see if I can improve them slightly. If you've got any more ideas about lighting or using these Sony cameras, put it down in the comments below. If, like me, you're getting up early in the morning and doing camera stuff before you're even dressed properly, then good for you. We need people like you with a passion for being creative and trying things out. Happy filmmaking and happy slow motion. See you.